Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Sekiro Shadows Die Twice complete walkthrough, and this is episode 5, which I have named Hirata Revisited, because we have 2 prayer beads right now and we are gonna pick up 2 more and venture a bit further in. We are not gonna take on the main boss in this episode, but we are gonna take out the 2 mini bosses leading up to her. And last time we were here we picked up the shinobi axe and we also picked up the flame barrel, and the axe is gonna be very useful going through the rest of this area because we are gonna be introduced to a new enemy type, which I have called the shield guys. Because they have big wooden shields, and you're gonna see right now that shinobi axe is super useful against it. Just one bash, it will splinter the shield and leave them open for an instant death blow. Love this thing. Because a lot of the game is based around these prosthetic tools and using the right tools for the right situation. And shinobi firecrackers, I've talked about them before, that they are basically my favorite tool in this game because they are useful for most situations coming up. But up here we have our first mini boss, the shinobi hunter Enshin of Misen. There is a guy in this area, or in the preceding area, that you can talk to, and he will talk about the shinobi hunter that is coming to kill you. And it sounds very threatening. And he looks quite imposing with his giant spear and his white and blue suit. But he isn't. He is basically a beefed up normal spear enemy as I face tank lots of flame arrows. And he's made easier by the preparations we did in the previous episode. Because we picked up, was it 21 skill points? Which is tedious, it is boring. It's not something you want to do when you play a game like this. But this game is a lot about doing the proper preparations for different situations. And before we take him, like all other mini bosses in this game, if they have minions with them, always take out the minions first. And if you're in a situation where they don't want to de-aggro, you can just run back here, and we're gonna leave this area and wait for him to relax and his sphincter to unclench. And I also realized I was really close to getting another skill point. So I'm gonna run back here and we're gonna kill all these roosters. Because I don't know if I have talked about it previously in this walkthrough. I might have, but if you're new to the walkthrough and would just want to check out this specific episode, whenever you're going into a mini boss fight or a main boss fight, it is always good to try to get a skill point just before, because if you fail, there are very few bosses. Overall, when you're playing this game the first time, there are very few bosses you will take out on your first try. And since you lose half the experience points you have gathered towards the next skill point, and half your money that you have accumulated, it's always good to spend the money or bank them by buying coin purses, or get a skill point so you don't lose as much experience. Now I'm just gonna wait for Enshin to move away so I can take out his little guy standing over here to my left. He's usually up there on that little rock staircase, or whatever you call it, rock platform over to my right. There are usually 2 enemies standing up here. There is that guy and the other guy. And you will not see a slow motion version of Enshin's attacks because he is basically a beefed up spear enemy, and you have faced off against a few of them thus far. So we go down for a death blow and we are gonna posture wreck this guy. First he does a thrust, so we punish that with Mikiri. Then he tries to do a perilous sweep, just jump over it. You can jump on him as well. does another thrust, which I face tank, so you can feel that he fought well. It could be that I took that hit on purpose to make him feel that he fought well before he died. Or maybe I mistimed my button press. What do you think, dear viewer? I'm gonna claim that I took it on purpose. But up here there are quite a few enemies, and since we are shinobi, we're gonna try to sneak in, or we're gonna sneak in behind them to get the drop on them. Use stealth to our advantage. Try to not fall into the river, because that is slightly humiliating. And then we can just sneak up, take out these two guys before they have a chance to alert anyone else. And there are 3 archers up there to the left on that little pathway. So we just grapple up and take them out. And apparently there is a 4th one, which is super weird. You're gonna see here, I take out all 3 of these guys. Ah, now I saw him. There actually is a 4th one. He just flashed by, because when I get back here, we're gonna go and pick up another prosthetic tool. When I get back here, he suddenly appears, and I didn't see him now. But I thought the game had glitched a little bit, but no, he was there. And instead of going over this bridge, make a hard right, and we're gonna go down here, and we're gonna pick up another prosthetic tool, which is super hidden. This is really easy to miss. And also kill this carp while you're at it. I've said that you need 7 carp scales to get a truly precious bait from the carp salesman, which we're gonna do very late game. But if you want to, it can be a good thing to pick up lots of carp scales. There are videos on the internet on how to find all of them, because he will also sell something called lapis lazuli, which you need to do the last upgrades if you want to upgrade all your prosthetic tools. But up here you see a purple ninja up there on the roof. He is very dangerous, so be quick, run up here, open the door, use the iframes we get for opening it, run in, pick up the Mist Raven's feathers, and cower in the back end of this room. Because he will chase you in here. And what you want to do is see which path he chooses to go in. If it goes into the right, we're going to run out on the left. If it goes to the right, so just run out to the left and run away. Because he is not to be messed with. There are quite a few ninja enemies later on in the game, and you don't want to take them on while we still have such a small health bar, because they can overwhelm you quite quickly. And now that we have picked up that, we're gonna backtrack through the river and go back over the bridge this time. But what was I talking about before? Can't remember. Either way, here is the mysterious archer that I thought came out of thin air. So face tank one of his fire arrows, as you do. Sometimes when you're not quick enough and you're not prepared for it. And these 3 guys, just run past them. This is something I mentioned before, never take on a big boy in full on face combat. I just don't think it's worth it. And in here we find our father, the Great Owl, and he's gonna give you the hidden temple key, which we will use later on to get into the last, or the main boss room of this area. So make sure you talk to him before you move on. And after picking up the prosthetic tool, this is a great time to talk about something a friend of mine asked me, because she has borrowed the game from me and started playing it, and also watched some of my videos that I have uploaded on this game. And we started talking about the vendor that sells Robert's firecrackers, and she asked me why things are so hidden in this game. If it is a tool that's supposed to help you, why would they put it in a place that is so hard to find and so hard to get to? And if you're new to From Software games, because I told her it's the From Software way, because this developer, they like to put game or create games in such a way that you really have to search for everything. A great example is Bloodborne. You can play through that entire game without having a single clue about the story in that game. Because that game has a super intricate story, really cool, really deep, but they don't tell it to you. You have to puzzle it together, and these games are a lot like that. They encourage you to explore every nook and cranny. They want you to try out everything. Because if you want the reward, you're gonna have to search for it. These games, they give nothing for free. But the good thing is, I and a lot of other people have made walkthroughs for this, so make the games a bit more accessible for people. But here we have another Sculptus idol, and we are inside the midst of the Hirata estate. And we are up to 3 prayer beads, so we're gonna take out one more mini boss, which is Juso the Drunkard. And the great thing about facing him here is that we will actually get some help to take him out. But going around this corner, there is an archer guy right there, so be quick to take him out. And then we're gonna head to the rooftops after we suck up all his loot. And I'm gonna pop a Gachin Sugar, because there are a lot of enemies down here, and we are just gonna run past them, and Gachin Sugar makes that a lot easier, because I don't want these guys to follow me. So we just make a big U-shaped motion, run all the way to the end here, hug this wall into the water, and stay to the left, because there is a guy over to my right, which we are gonna employ the help of later. If one of them spots you, it's not a super big deal, just keep running, try not to clip on those rocks, and run over here, because he will lose track of you quite quickly. We can jump in here, take out this guy, and we're gonna kill his friend. After taking 2 swipes, apparently. But down he goes. And Juso, much like the Shinobi Hunter, has a lot of little friends. And I highly recommend you take them out before you kill Juso. And what I like to do is sneak around this area, because he is sitting on the staircase leading into that house. You can't quite see him. But first I take out one of these shield guys, which will aggro him. And then try to take out at least 1 or 2 more. So we take out the archer boy and run away. You can do as many run-bys as you want. All it takes is time. If one of them follows you, the good thing about Juso is that he's not super quick. So I managed to take out one of his guards. And there we have Juso. Big bastard, isn't he? But he's a drunk, so we're gonna kick his ass. And now I'm just waiting for all the enemies to de-aggro. Does take a while. And it will be faster if you use the Gachin Sugar once again. Feel free to take this time to heal up if you have taken any hits like I did. Because Gachin Sugar, you should have quite a few of them, because the enemies we grinded, the gremlin guys, they are quite happy to drop them. They drop very often from those guys. I think I had 33 of them, and that is sufficient to get you through the entirety of this game. And this is actually not shitty editing on my behalf. This is a quit out reset. Because that is something you can do also in this game, and I will use it later on as well, that you quit out of the game, because that will put you in a state where enemies have de-aggroed, and it felt like they weren't letting up. So I decided to do it just to get it to move on faster. And the problem with the quit out reset is that Juso goes back to the staircase. And if he doesn't go, if you make him de-aggro without quitting out, he will stand out in this little area, which will make it easier to sneak in behind his enemies when they go back to their passive state. So that is a bit of a trade-off in between those two. And you saw that his flame, or that his sword is fuming. He buffs it with the booze he drinks, which is some messed up version of sake. And that will give his blade poison touch. So whenever it's fuming, you need to be extra careful of it, because it can poison you. But now, since I had Gachin, he lost track of me quite quickly, and he goes back there and he just stands there passively. So now we can sneak in and take out the last of his little comrades. If I can get up to this little walkway. So we just sneak around here, be careful. There's his last fellow. So we go up, we take him down, and we run away once again. This is also one of those mini bosses where I will not show a slow-mo version of his attacks, because we will employ some help in taking him down. If your little helper dies and you're not sure to take him on, use the same strategy that we used on what's it called, Tenzin Yamauchi. You know, the second general we took out. We just run around him and bait and punish his attacks. Because the drunkard is also very susceptible to that attack, because he hits really hard. You will actually see him kill me once in the fight coming up, because I got greedy. But he is also very slow. It's usually the thing with these really big fellows, that they hit really hard, but the trade-off is they are not very quick when it comes to doing it. And I'm just waiting for him to go back to his base position. You can stealth kill him while he's walking back, but I wanted to play it safe, because it took too much time to take out all of his friends. And you're gonna have to get really up close and personal to get the death blow marker. There it is. So we stab him in the back, unlock from him, and run over here. And talk to this guy. So he's gonna join you in the fight. And the most effective way to take on Juso now is to just juggle his aggro in between you. Stay passive until he turns his attention to that guy. Run in, do a couple of hits, maybe 2, 3, until he turns his attention towards you. Run away, let him turn his attention back to the other guy, and don't take a big hit like I did. And Juso will not know who to focus on. And don't get caught in between them, because that is just bad. And down he goes. And as I said, if this guy dies during the fight, which he can, he had just a sliver of health left when this fight was over. But if he dies, just use the good old merry-go-round move. Bait and punish his attacks, and you shouldn't have any problems at all. And when you get in here, first we take out these two guys on the left, because there is a secret room over here, which we are gonna head into, of course, and pick up. Can't remember if it's a gourd seed or a prayer bead that's in here. And if you follow this walkthrough, the reason we go in here is we are gonna unlock the sculptor's idol just outside the boss room. Because that is something that is dissimilar from the previous games. That there is always, or almost always, a sculptor's idol just before boss fights. There are never any long run backs. Which I think is a great thing, because this game has got a reputation for being super hard. And it is hard. I'm not gonna lie, and if you have followed this walkthrough and played the game at the same time, you also know that it's hard. But I don't think it is as hard as they want you to think. It was prayer bead we were supposed to pick up. Because something that makes this game, I think, a lot easier than Dark Souls or Bloodborne is that you can actually pause this game. You can pause mid-boss battle if you want to. Because that is what I think was the hardest part about those other games. Whenever you go into a boss fight, you're gonna have to keep complete focus during the entire fight until one of you dies. But here you can actually pause, breathe for a second, stop to think, and just relax, and then unpause the game and continue taking on the boss. But now we have unlocked the sculptor's idol just outside the boss room, so we are gonna head out of this place. And this is quite interesting. This is one of the parts I didn't have time to I didn't get this far when I pre-watched this video. Ah, here is the little old lady. If you still haven't talked to her, make sure to do it now. Talk to the little old lady. Because I talked about that, I think it was in my last episode, maybe the one before that, that it's really important you talk to that little old lady. And now I remember what we're doing. We're heading to Senpu Temple. You can just run past the wolves and that big boy. You can continue running here. I just wanted to save here just as a precaution. There are no big threats on our way to Senpu Temple, but just in case. So we're just gonna rest here so we have a new checkpoint. Or if you die, you don't have to restart over at where we dropped in. And this is the abandoned dungeon. There are some ghoul-esque enemies in here, which in my experience seems a bit finicky to kill. I'm not quite sure why that is, if you have to use fire or something. Because you will see me death blow this one, but I think that if you take them on head on or some shit like that, they will revive is the word. So, but they are really slow, they don't pose a big threat, so just ignore them. If you want to pick up the loot, feel free to run around them, because they are not super quick. But now we're gonna venture into this water and take out these enemies up here on this little platform, because this river, not quite sure how much you can see. Because this place is quite dark, and in my editing software things get even darker. Hopefully it will be a bit more clear when this is up on YouTube. But this little river goes in a U-shape to the right. So we're just gonna follow it. I want to take out all these enemies and pick up whichever loot I can find, which is a pacifying agent and a light coin purse even. And pacifying agents are used when you take on enemies that have terror buildup. Especially the headless mini-bosses, which I will show you how to take on, but that is something I will show you at the very end of this walkthrough, because they are a pain. Basically, I was even thinking about skipping them in this walkthrough, because I think the reward you get for killing them is just not worth it. You get, I don't know if I mentioned it before, you get reusable versions of the sugars, but the sugars can be purchased and picked up. So I think that is one of those few moments in this game where the reward doesn't match the challenge. So now all we need to do is wait for this little elevator, and don't forget to pull this lever. On my practice run, I ran into the elevator and I was standing there for a few seconds like, why doesn't it move? And I realized, yeah, there's a lever right in front of me. But as you can see, it's quite a dark area, so I missed the fact that it was there. But here we have the first sculptor's idol in Senpu Temple, and I hope you have talked to the little old lady. If you haven't by now, make sure to run back and do so. But that's the end of this episode, and I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.